Thank you for inviting me to this international conference on digital marketing. I'm sorry I cannot be there in person. The conference is most timely because the digital age is going to transform marketing even much more than what the industrial age did. Industrial age primarily created a mass production, mass consumption society, and anything that was unorganized brands became organized brands. Anything that was unorganized distribution became organized distribution, as we know today, very contemporary wholesale retail. And if you believe that industrial age had a massive impact on marketing, the digital age will have hundreds of times more impact. What I wanted to mention is that my presentation will focus on the 4 P's of marketing and articulate how each P of marketing will get impacted by the digital age. In India especially, the impact will be more massive, more transformative, because India has pretty much bypassed the PC evolution and has gone straight into mobile platforms. If you analyze the data about the last Diwali celebrations in October, November, it was a massive impact by e-commerce companies such as Flipkart, Amazon, Snapdeal, and others. And they are primarily going to be the catalyst for what is the largest sector in Indian economy, which is unorganized, unbranded products, into highly organized distribution system and more branded products and services. However, at a more fundamental level, the impact of digital marketing is going to make marketing from location bound to location agnostic, as I call it, and from time bound to time agnostic, which means digital marketing will be anytime, anywhere, anyhow marketing. In many ways, it will unleash the power of marketing to a level that we have not even imagined. So let me talk about the impact on each of the 4 P's of marketing, starting with product. The first major element about product is that if the product itself could be a digitized product, such as, for example, travel, banking, any services, now we'll have a double impact because the product itself could be distributed, product itself can be consumed on the digital platforms. So you do not have the physical need for delivery, physical need for storage on which marketing principles were founded. But in general, across product categories, the impact is going to be very interesting, namely the digital age, especially with so much embedded technology or what is called Internet of Things. I can put a sensor, I can put a display, I can put a processor, I can put a memory chip everywhere. It is so affordable that everything we know today will become smart. There will be smart products and smart services. I think that's a major impact. Second major impact will be to fuse the fusion of the old and the new. So Amazon, while it's an online, will have physical stores, and brick and mortars will go online, and they fuse the two rather than one being extension of the other. We says that if I was an online retailer, how can I get the atmospherics? How can I get the, merchandising? And how can I do the sales clerk function in the online environment as physical stores do? And physical stores will have to learn that at the store, how can I make everything smarter, faster, better, and a frictionless transaction? Why should at the retail store, for example, I must buy the product, take it to one place to pay for the counter, pick up the delivery some other place? It's a lot of friction is involved. But I can get rid of that by having this fusion of the brick and mortar and the online experiences. Branding will become very innovative. And for the first time, I see the power of branding that we know, which came from the FMCG sector, fast moving consumer goods. Those days are over. The biggest brands are no longer going to be the Coca-Colas of the world, for example, but they are going to be the Apple of the world, the Google of the world. Think about those names. Who would have thought that a computer company will call itself as Apple, or a search engine company will call itself as Google? Yahoo was the biggest surprise when it came out as a word. Yahoo, what does it mean? A traditional branding expert will never understand this thing, which means our knowledge of branding as we have created from the packaged goods industry, which is historical, 100 years old knowledge, is not going to be very useful going into the future. Online anything. Doesn't matter what you're selling. Online work, online play, online dating. Bharat Matrimony, for example, is incredible, powerful website. They know how to do segmentation better than anybody in the academic world we can think about. And of course, we have shadi.com, for example, online friendship, online shopping. So this online phenomenon, online anything as I call it, is much broader, not just in terms of specific products and services, but in the whole ecosystem of consumer experience, no matter what activities they do, whether those are for monetary transactions or those are for non-monetary transactions. And there is an app for everything. It's mind-boggling that on Apple platform alone, there are more than 1.5 million apps, and we haven't seen anything yet. If you can have the Airbnb, if you can have the Uber, Uberization is the future of anything we do. Ownership as a concept goes away, which is a fundamental axiom in marketing, because marketing is transfer of ownership from the seller to the buyer in exchange for some money or value. Those ideas are going to become more obsolete sooner than we thought about. The product will become a lot more affordable and a lot more accessible. The two major bottlenecks in marketing always have been to reach the large masses, especially base of the pyramid market, is accessibility and affordability. The digital technology is creating accessibility and affordability to a level we would have never imagined. Now, I do remember the days in America when we made everything more affordable through mass production. Whether it's a Model T car by assembly principle in making cars, making them affordable, or it is a camera such as a Kodak camera with a point and shoot kind of devices, or whether it's a Timex watch. But what we did there at that time is nothing compared to what's possible. So products will be, and services especially, will be made more and more affordable and more accessible, especially through innovative, affordable medical devices, healthcare delivery system, HD TV, for example. As prices are crashing. I can today probably buy an HD TV, small screen. My forecast is that in 2-3 years will be down to maybe less than $100, just like what happened with DVD players, just like what happened with every other gadget that we know, or with digital cameras. The affordability and distributional accessibility to a level we have never imagined. Let's take the second P of marketing called promotion. Promotion, as we know today, will become obsolete. The largest promotion platforms are not going to be the traditional coupons or direct mail, which are really promotional devices, but they're going to be social media. In fact, Facebook just announced the amount of revenue they generated, $1 billion net profit, mostly through advertising for 1 quarter, which is unthinkable how much money they have made on using social media platform. But if you calculate the CPM, cost per thousand, it makes sense. If I can give you access to 1.5 billion people all over the world, my CPM cost is so reasonable compared to television, for example, compared to print, compared to anything. So I can do advertising and promotion in a way that was just never imagined before. Mobile advertising is the fastest growing medium in India. The latest data that came out just showed you that mobile advertising is growing at about 40-45%. Print still continues for a while. Television still is the dominant medium, but I saw the decline 2 years in a row, especially in magazine revenues. So magazines may be the lead casualty or change that happens with the digital age. We need to watch the future of magazines and what is evolving from printed magazines to where the magazines become primarily digital diaries of some sort. That will be interesting. Finally, user-generated advertising. This is a big event. I find fascinating that what was strictly considered as creative people's view or values, they would go to creative schools of design, etc., and understand. But for the first time, I see democratization of creativity. There always was a creativity in everybody, but we never democratized. This technology enables democratization of creativity. And of course, in the US, we have seen that thing at our major event called the Super Bowl for American football. Frito-Lay was very smart to create a contest where users produced commercials. They select the commercials, and out of that one, they show it at the most expensive medium, television. They pay almost like $2 million for 30-second or maybe a 1-minute spot. That is the future. More and more advertising will be generated by users as much as by the ad agencies or by creative people. I wanted to add one more thing about specifically advertising from a media viewpoint. I think the media will change dramatically. At one time, we talked about how the medium becomes the message. Today, the messenger will become the medium. In other words, the YouTube phenomenon says that I can have as many channels as number of consumers. Each consumer can have their own channel, and they can blog about your product. They can do anything they want to do with your product, which means brand stewardship is now more with your consumers than with you. But the unlimited potential of the internet channels. If you think that the cable industry created large number of channels, as we see in India, for example, and therefore things like Doordarshan are becoming so small or limited in their scope. When I come to India and watch television, it's mind-boggling to see there are like 400-500 cable channels, and the content is created on each one of those channels, but that is nothing compared to what I can do on the internet. Every consumer now becomes a producer and a promoter of your brand, and how do we leverage that properly? So the second P of promotion, advertising, is going to dramatically change. Probably faster and bigger change than maybe the product change per se or product innovation, where again, I will repeat, affordability and accessibility will be the key transformers in the digital age. Let's talk about the third P called place or distribution. I remember teaching that in retailing, location, location, location. Those are the three laws of retailing. Those are the three laws of real estate or anything. Is it true anymore? Internet today provides global reach. I remember actually buying many years ago through eBay when it was just coming out. I had no idea. A friend of mine suggested, go to eBay. Have you heard about eBay? And I wanted to buy a specific artifact, an ancient relic for my religion, Jainism. And I simply asked for who has that artifact or a sculpture, small sculpture. And I found somebody in Australia, a retail, antique dealer had that sculpture. This would be unimaginable in the industrial age. So this global reach is a very key attribute of the internet age and the digital age. I also believe that the internet or the digital or the broadband is a much richer medium. It is the only medium that combines video with print with voice. Radio has been voice. Print is print, of course, as we know, in newspapers and magazines. And television, of course, is the video. But this is the only medium where I can combine all these three together and come out with much better communication, much better experience for the audience that I'm trying to reach. For the first time, as e-commerce takes shapes on the digital age, you will see just the opposite in terms of the marketing supply chain. Remember, we always have manufacturing, sourcing raw materials, value add in manufacturing, storing that, sorting it out, distributing it, reaching the consumer. Today it is just the reverse. Namely, order comes in and then I begin to fulfill the order by procurement, for example. I may have a sourcing done in a very different way than ever before, as e-commerce people are telling us and teaching us how to do it. Definitely, if the product is digitized, such as a travel, banking, dating, whatever it is already in place pretty much. So, Uberization of the world is taking place. So is the market feedback. Today, market research is not episodal, like an annual surveys of opinion makers or Nielsen types of, audits of some sort. It is continuous feedback. And how do we adjust to that feedback on a continuous basis becomes a challenge and an opportunity in marketing. As I mentioned before, I've become quite impressed with the penetration of e-commerce on mobile devices. Now we bypassed the PC evolution. It was too expensive. And laptops connectivity was a problem. And with 4G evolution in India now, on a national level, we will see clearly the flattening between the rural and the urban, flattening between the educated and the uneducated, flattening between the gender, women versus men, all those segmentations that we do, or the traditional socioeconomic status strata that we create, probably will be less and less useful. Today, consumers will be everywhere. If Thomas Friedman coined the phrase, world is flat, as you know, it was actually Nandan Nilekani who gave that phrase to Tom Friedman in one of his interviews. It is fascinating. Today, marketing will flatten out between the rural and the urban. I'm very passionate about that one because largest potential is going to be in the rural market, despite all of the current negative views about rural market not going as fast, etc. And the reason is the following reality. If you take a typical software engineer in Bangalore at graduation, will command about 60,000 rupees a month salary. But his cost of living is so high, rental for example, he's single, so he has to have evening events out either at a coffee shop or in a club to meet somebody. He's very modern, contemporary, so he's in debt from the day he starts his job. He has a negative cash flow actually to survive. Now contrast that with a crane operator in Mundra port who also commands 60,000 rupees a month. He is married. The wife is a homemaker, taking care of the aging parents. He has nothing to pay as a rent, and his discretionary income is 2 to 3 times greater than the discretionary income of the software engineer. So the ultimate device for earning income may not be the college degree, but the vocational, technical, trained, skill generation of population. 10 plus 2, 1 year, 2 year of skill education, which is mostly in second tier in rural populations. Now, what does that crane operator do with his money? He wants to buy a better motorcycle. He wants to look more modern in terms of jeans, for example. He would like to be in the contemporary age from the old bullock age or whatever age we call them. He definitely would like to aspire for himself as well as for his children. More savings for the future. He doesn't want his child to be a crane operator like him. He wants him to be educated. In fact, I find Amul brand of dairy cooperatives, all those farmers who have only 2.5 to 3 cows and they're all cow herders, all have a relative abroad. Whether they are in England or in America, we don't know, interestingly. So we need to question our traditional views about where the markets are. I also find more and more with this digital technology, distributed education and distributed healthcare, two major industries. I clearly see the power of the MOOCs, whether it's edX or Coursera. They are going to definitely become either full substitutes or at least part substitutes, if not complementary. So complementary and substitute relationships between online and offline is going to be a key player in both healthcare as well as in education. Let's take the last P, which is the price. I think pricing, like advertising, will have almost immediate impact. Price arbitrage is not likely to sustain in the long run, whether it's an Indian IT services price arbitrage or whether it's a price arbitrage by middlemen creating price arbitrages. But more importantly, there will be clearly dynamic pricing. What we see as dynamic pricing in the stock market, now in the airline business, or in entertainment business nowadays, is going to become reality for grocery products. Who said I have to price it once a month? Who said I have to price it once a week? We price in grocery stores once a 24-hour cycle. This would be real-time pricing because we can embed smart technologies on every product. In fact, there are many great Indian IT services companies who serve the retail sector as an enterprise market are actually doing phenomenal job of virtual reality on a cell phone application with a Google very affordable $20 I guess a goggle or whatever you wear. I've gone through and experienced that thing, and you find fascinating that I can literally today, by just looking for 2 seconds toward a product, let's say Kellogg's cornflakes, it drops into my virtual bucket or a basket. Basket is taken out to the store and I make a payment, no human intervention. Think about the productivity of that. So back to pricing. Pricing will become more and more online pricing and more dynamic pricing. Second major change in pricing is that pricing will become more and more subscription-based pricing, or what you call software as a service, SaaS. Netflix clearly showed that a subscription model is very viable and quite profitable, also scalable, because it makes affordability very easy. I don't have to own anything. And as we call it, Uberization of the world is taking place, which means a sharing economy will emerge, and we have never understood the marketing in a sharing economy. Because as I mentioned earlier, marketing was founded on transfer of ownership, transfer of possession, but that's not really the future in many ways. And Uberization will take place across everything. And more consumers are saying, why do I have to own anything to experience things? I don't have to own. Whether it's an automobile, appliances, anything. So Uberization is a very key phenomenon and will impact marketing, especially from a pricing viewpoint, affordability viewpoint, accessibility viewpoint, to a way that we have not imagined. We will also be able to do more bundling and unbundling of offerings. At one time, we agonized for quite a lot of time how to bundle, let's say in telephone companies, to bundle the telephone, landline, wireless telephone or cell phones, cable, for example, and the broadband. I remember doing a lot of research on that using conjoint analysis about where is the value point, what bundle of offering. All of that becomes somewhat irrelevant because I can dynamically change my bundle and unchange almost automatically. And pricing, in my view, in the long run, except for regulatory aspects, will become global pricing. In other words, prices in different parts of the world are likely to be more homogenized, more equal, because arbitrage is not sustainable in the e-commerce age. So in addition to the 4 P's of marketing, digital technology will also impact on market research that we do, customer support that we do, and customer feedback. So social media analytics is very different than the traditional operations research based analytics that I did or multivariate statistics that I did. Crowdsourcing may be more and more possible today to create new products and innovations. Crowdsourcing for everything, including feedback mechanisms. And traditional marketing as we know it today will become more and more peripheral, and digital marketing, which is peripheral right now, will become more and more core. I think it's a fundamental shift that we'll think. And this follows a law that I have discovered over time, that anything we do out of necessity or daily activity, when we give it up, comes back as a specialty or hobby. Hunting, fishing. Remember, hunting was a daily need in the days of hunters and gatherers. But once we become a farming civilized society, hunting is now more a hobby. Today, most of the households' biggest outsourcing is at home. We don't know how to cook, clean, childcare, next generation of millenniums. So more and more, those are becoming hobby. Gardening is a hobby. You don't have to be a farmer to be a gardener anymore. Baking bread is a hobby. Cooking has become a major hobby. In fact, one of the most popular cable channels in the US is a food channel. We are making ordinary cooks into extraordinary celebrity chefs. I mean, I never imagined that was possible. And with the digital age, this will be amplified to a magnitude that is much greater. Therefore, to conclude, location-centric and time-centric marketing concepts and practices will evolve more and more specialty, more and more peripheral rather than daily activities. In the US, I know right now, most shopping center owners, not retail stores, but the people who build shopping centers, are struggling. In fact, more and more our shopping malls are switching from being merchandise malls to more and more recreation malls, food courts, cinema theaters, 16 screens. Eventually, we see them becoming more and more entertainment and athletic stores, which means you have a basketball arena in the shopping center, you have a skating in the shopping center, you have all of the recreational activities. So shopping centers are themselves planning about their future line more and more services rather than more and more merchandises. I'm sorry I cannot be there again, but I hope this presentation is interesting, useful, and you can have all the debates and discussions without me. I'm sorry again I cannot participate in those discussions, but again, thank you for inviting.